All right, 5:30. We'll call the meeting to order. And if we can start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand if you are able. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We want to thank everyone for being here. And we'll just go over a little bit of our meeting guidelines, safety protocol. Purpose of this meeting is for the board to conduct board business. The meeting is open to the public and it is being recorded. You can listen to past board meetings by visiting board docs through our district website, and this meeting is being presented via Zoom as well. And just a reminder, not appropriate for audience members to interrupt board business or ask questions during the meeting. Agenda items will be addressed as listed in the agenda. In case of emergency, please exit using the closest exit to you. And Director Jeffries, would you care to share our vision and mission statements?
Our vision: our community inspires and prepares each student to thrive. And our mission, in connection with our community, the SCRIM School District empowers staff to inspire hope and provide flexible, innovative learning opportunities in a safe and respectful environment so each student thrives.
Okay, thank you. Director Johnston, would you care to share our land acknowledgement?
Thank you. We acknowledge the land we stand on. The SCWIM School District administrative and school buildings sit on the ancestral land of the S'Klallam people. While the S'Klallam traditionally come from one nation, history has led to the formation of three sovereign S'Klallam tribal governments. Lower Elwha S'Klallam tribe located in Port Angeles, Washington, the Jamestown S'Klallam tribe located in Squib, Washington, Port Gamble S'Klallam tribe located in Kingston, Washington. The district's primary partnership is with the Jamestown S'Klallam tribe. Today, the tribe and district share a partnership that includes official consultation on program and funding changes that may directly affect American Indian and Alaska Native students, as well as holistic service planning for students to remain successful in their educational journeys.
Thank you. Okay, and with that, we're going to go into our special presentations, which I believe we have two different special presentations. We're going to start off with our retiree presentation. I think we're inviting up our HR director.
Thank you, President Pickens. Good evening, Board Superintendent Nichols, Assistant Superintendent Hudson. This is truly one of my favorite board meetings of the year, probably my favorite board meeting of the year. We get to honor the folks who have spent their one and only lives in service to the SCWIM School District. And I am thrilled and excited to present to you tonight a beautiful presentation that our Public Information Officer, Megan Like, put together in honor of our retirees. And I ask that you just enjoy this wonderful presentation outlining the service that these folks have given to us. And following the presentation, we have a small token for those of you who are in attendance. And I'll invite you up to shake the hands of the board after you've enjoyed this presentation. Thank you.
Tonight, we come together to celebrate the extraordinary journey of those who have devoted their careers to nurturing young minds. Their unwavering commitment has opened doors, sparked imagination, and laid the groundwork for the future of our community. In the words of C.S. Lewis, the task of the modern educator is not to cut down jungles, but to irrigate deserts. These are the ones who saw potential in every learner, who inspired wonder, cultivated confidence, and helped young minds flourish. Their influence lives on proudly in the growth and the achievements of our students and community.
Ms. Tiller has worked at Helen Haller since 2017. She is extremely dependable, is not afraid to take charge in any situation, and once had to use the Heimlich maneuver on a student who was choking. She is extremely artistic and creative. She makes quilts, silkscreen scarves, and knits numerous other things. She loves her dogs and has a soft spot, especially for pit bulls. Ms. Tiller is hoping to do some traveling during her retirement, perhaps to Spain or Portugal, but she might come back and sub in our life skills room every once in a while. She does not want to be bored. We so much appreciate all the hours and care you have provided for students at Helen Haller Elementary. We wish you the very best in your retirement. Becky Stanton, Principal, Helen Haller Elementary.
Today, as Carol Lichten steps into retirement, we honor the incredible journey she has shared with all of us at Grey Wolf Elementary over the past 22 years. Carol began with us in 2003, working in Title Math. Under the guidance of Hans Banish, she quickly learned the power of asking students leading questions to deepen their understanding. From Title Math, she moved into Title Reading with Candy Ulmer before transitioning into special education, where she taught math to kindergartners through 5th graders and eventually any subject that was needed. One of Carol's fondest memories in recent years was recording math fluency videos during the pandemic. She enjoyed these virtual connections with students, however few, and found joy working virtually with students online when we couldn't be together in person. Carol's contributions extend far beyond the classroom. She brought energy and enthusiasm to our playgrounds, coordinating tetherball and Grey Wolf-style pickleball tournaments, and teaching students how to play with sportsmanship and fun. She loved supervising recess and lunch, building those meaningful relationships with students outside of academics. She even took great pride in her flagging responsibilities, twirling the flag in every possible direction. Carol also formed a special bond with our bus drivers, proudly claiming them as her bus drivers. Yet of all of her memories, it's the personal relationships that meant the most to Carol. As she retires, we celebrate a legacy of kindness, learning, and connection that will remain at the heart of Grey Wolf for years to come. Thank you, Carol, for your 22 years of devoted service, for your bright spirit, and for the lasting impact you have had on all of us. Jennifer Lopez, Principal, Grey Wolf Elementary.
Shelley Langston has been part of the Sequim School District family since July 1st, 2002. In that time, she has shown us all what it means to bring energy, warmth, and love to every day and every task. If you know Shelley, you know how full of life she is, always ready with a smile, a kind word, or a helping hand. She has a way of making people feel seen, heard, and valued, no matter how busy the days get. As the Executive Director of Learning Support Services, Shelley has taken great care in her work, always looking out for those she served, our staff, our students, and our families. She has brought a special spark to the people she's worked with and always wants to make a difference. Shelley's work has always been about more than just tasks on a list. She works tirelessly to support and uplift our community, ensuring that everyone feels welcome, supported, and encouraged. She has shown us the power of kindness and the impact of a positive attitude. In every interaction, Shelley has lifted others up with her laughter, her caring spirit, and her genuine belief in the good around her. As she steps into her well-earned retirement, we want to honor not just the years she spent with us, but the way she shaped our schools and our district. Shelley leaves behind a legacy of compassion, hard work, and dedication that will continue to inspire us long after she leaves. Shelley, thank you for your unwavering care, your infectious joy, and the countless ways you made Sequim School District a better place for everyone. You will be missed deeply, but your impact will always be part of who we are. We wish you a retirement filled with laughter, adventure, and all the things that make you happiest. Congratulations on this milestone, and thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Regan Nichols, Superintendent, Sequim School District.
We get to celebrate a remarkable milestone this year, the retirement of Mr. Joe Landoni. After 39 years of dedicated teaching, 25 of which were spent at Sequim Middle School in room 404. That consistency alone speaks volumes about the kind of educator and person Joe is. His science team shared this tribute, and I think it perfectly captures his impact. He has always been the steady rock of the science department, a quiet, stoic presence who somehow still manages to be the first to drop everything when someone needs help. He is more than just a colleague. He's been a father figure to us all, sweet, caring, and deeply committed to both his students and his fellow teachers. Joe, your calm strength, unwavering support, and genuine kindness have left a lasting mark on everyone around you. You've not only taught science, you've taught patience, humility, and compassion. Thank you for everything that you've given to this school, this staff, and countless students over nearly 4 decades. You will be deeply missed, but your legacy will live on in the halls and hearts of this place for years to come. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. Thank you, Joe, for being extraordinary. Kristen Lunt, Principal, Squim Middle School.
Eric Danielson is a goal setter and goal achiever. He has spent the last 31 years at Helen Haller Elementary School and started here as a student teacher. Eric taught fourth grade for about 2 to 3 years and spent 10 years in the multi-age program in a 4-5 combo, and the rest of the time has been spent as a 5th grade teacher. He also had a brief stint as a writing TOSA back in 2009. He's been a wealth of overall history and knowledge about Helen Haller and the Squim School District. So if you want to know something, go talk to Mr. Danielson. As a goal setter, Eric has achieved 7,500 miles on his bike over the last 20 years. He biked to soccer practice, to work and to home, and other fun bike rides he's chosen for himself. Another way he used to get bike rides in was when the 5th grade team would ride to the River Center by bike. He has climbed around 57 peaks in the Olympic Mountains. Mind you, these are all the peaks that he can see from Helen Haller Elementary. He also reads at least 50 books a year and recommends some of those books to the folks he knows. He estimates that he's worked with about 1,000 kids and families over the last 31 years. An awesome tradition for students in his class is the annual letter that students would write to their future selves about who they wanted to be when they grew up. He dared his students to dream about what they wanted to become. And that is why he has had such a successful career at Haller for 31 years, because he knew the power of connection that would be a game changer for students' lives. An official Dundee Award goes to Eric Daniels for 31 successful teaching years and for your every morning sage advice when you stop by my office. Best wishes on a wonderful retirement, hiking, and biking. Becky Stanton, Principal, Helen Haller Elementary. Next up, we have Chris McDougall Danielson, who has taught for 38 years. She has taught 4 years at Helen Haller, 13 years at Grey Wolf, and the last trimester of her career, she has been at Haller for 20 years. She has taught kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, and has been our reading specialist the last 2 years. She's also been a grade level chair, given professional development, and told a lot of very funny jokes. Her own children were even born during her time at Haller too. Chris has been passionate and tireless in her goal to make sure 1st graders are strong readers by the time they left her classroom. I know that's true because my own daughter was in her class, and as a parent, I received a video of Sydney reading at the beginning of the year and end of year. Wow, what a difference a great reading teacher makes to a student's life. Chris shared that she grew up at Helen Haller beginning at the age of 24 after meeting Eric at Grey Wolf during an in-service training. She is thankful for the many amazing friends she has made throughout the years at Helen Haller. Through her time, she has crafted baby shower gifts. She used her calligraphy skills to make cards and write letters that were pieces of art, and she has sewed her heart out so that every staff member has a lanyard with their name stitched on it. She shares her gifts with Helen Haller because she loves the people here. Chris, thank you for your many years of service with students and staff alike. We appreciate your sense of humor and the laugh that goes along with it. We will miss your dedication to students, high standards, and all that you have done for others at Haller. May your camping, biking, and hiking be wonderful in retirement. And Chris, you get an official Dundee Award for 38 successful teaching years and the best stocked book room ever. Congratulations, Becky Stanton, Principal, Helen Haller Elementary.
This class of 2025 brings with it an incredible legacy, a combined 149 years of dedicated service to the students and families of the Squim School District. Your commitment has made a lasting impression on our community. May this next season bring you joy, fulfillment, and the freedom to embrace all the possibilities ahead. Thank you.
Carol and Joe, if you'd like to come on up.
Congratulations.
You. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you. Yes, that's congratulations. Thank you for your service. Thank you so much.
Very impressive. Congratulations.
Pleasure.
All right. Appreciate that presentation and hopefully, hopefully all folks who are retiring will get a chance to see that over to them. Okay, next, I believe, we have our, what's the official title of it? Is it our conclusionary sort of? what is it? End of the year? Sports, okay. Which, once I saw you up here, I should have known that's what it's about, but.
Yeah, we're gonna do a little bit, something a little bit different to begin with here is we have some of our students here tonight that participated in their state competitions this year. The list that you see up on the screen here is the list of all of our students, fall, winter, and spring, that participated in their state level competition. We had 42 students this year that competed at state. And we wanted to honor them with you guys tonight, and we have a few of them here. Tonight we have, with golf, we have Rainey Brewer, Adrian Aragon, and Chloe Tweeter. You guys want to stand up real quick? And then from the track team, we have Reed Randall and Claire Torella. And unfortunately, the rest of them weren't able to be here, obviously, because, you know, school's out and they all flew 3,000 different directions. You guys, thank you. But we wanted to make sure that you guys at least saw their names and we talked about them a little bit. We did have an athletic awards assembly for them this year, where we announced them in front of their parents, and they all got a state participant medal, which has their name and the sport that they participated on. So they have received that as just to commemorate the year that they had in their sport. So we wanted to just make sure that we talked about them a little bit. This year we awarded 4 athletes of the year, 2 scholar athletes of the year, and then 2 overall athletes of the year. And you can see their names up there. Our scholar athletes of the year this year were seniors Kira Mori and Jamison Gray, with honoring their GPAs. Kira was also one of our valedictorians this year, which she did being a 3-sport athlete all 4 years of high school. And then Jamison Gray had almost a 4.0. He was like a 3.89, and he was also a multi-sport athlete for us this year. Our overall athletes of the year for the girls was Dawn Holstedt. She's a cross country and track runner. I'm sure you guys are familiar with her. She's made the state competition for the last couple of years, and has placed multiple times in the state competition. And then our male athlete of the year was Braden White, who was has been a 3-sport athlete for us most of his time here at SQUIM, and also has a very high GPA and is very involved in the community and things like that. So we wanted to honor those athletes. Unfortunately, none of them could be here tonight for you guys to give them a round of applause, but again, wanted to mention them and honor them in front of the board tonight. And then finally, what I'd like to do is call Claire Torella up here. Claire, if you'd like to come up for a second. Claire competed at the state track meet this year and won the state championship with a high jump of 5'4". And this is also the back-to-back year that she has won the state championship. And so I wanted to present this trophy to her that just says, it just calls up her accomplishments and things like that. And, give you guys a chance to kind of meet her and shake her hand because she is one of the few back-to-back state champions that we have ever had here in the history of the school. And she's only a sophomore, and she is
Nice.
going to be competing on our track team for the next 2 years. So with, the goal obviously of lots of great things to come for her. So Claire, we really appreciate you. Thank you.
Congratulations. Good job.
Congratulations. Very impressive. Congratulations.
Man. Guys, you guys are good if you want to go. I've got some more stuff to talk about tonight, but thank you for coming and we really appreciate all your efforts for us this year and congratulations on great seasons. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, I think we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna finish up my spring sport report for you guys so that you don't have to hear from me twice in one night. So this year in the spring, we had 7 varsity teams compete. We had 225 athletes across those 7 teams that competed for us in the spring. They played 173 games or matches. Most of those events in the spring actually are individual sports, but all 3 of our team sports did qualify for the postseason: baseball, softball, and boys soccer. All qualified for their postseason tournaments. We had 11 individual state qualifiers that made their state tournaments from track and from golf. And then obviously we had our one back-to-back state championship, our state champion Claire. And so that's a picture of her there. And so just some things that kind of overall view of the season. Individually with the teams, we'll go ahead and start with baseball. Baseball this year was continued to be coached by Dave Ditlison. They had about 30 participants in baseball. They ended up placing 4th in the Olympic League this year and did qualify for the district tournament. They had a tough game against Olympic in the first round of that district tournament that went back and forth. They ended up coming out on the short end of the stick on that particular game, but they did overall have a really good season. Maybe not as good as they had hoped to have coming off of last year, but the team showed good improvement. They had good senior leadership. And we have a couple kids going on to play baseball in college from that team. Braden White and Ethan Staples both signed at Olympic college to play baseball next year. So they'll be continuing that. You can see our all league award winners there from baseball. We had 4 of them, which was one of the higher counts out of the Olympic League teams this year, other than Bainbridge, who ended up going on to the state, making a very deep run in the state tournament. And then our overall team GPA in baseball this year was a 3.225. So they did a good job. Coach Ditlison does a great job of keeping those kids, eligible and their GPAs up. And that's a pretty good average for a baseball team. The boys golf team, coached by Greg Glasser, had 20 boys participate this year at some point. With the way golf works, only about 6 of those really golfed in a particular match for varsity, but most of those 20 boys at some point did have some varsity experience throughout the course of the season. Adrian Aragon, who we just honored just a second ago, qualified for state. He ended up making the cut on the first day and competing on the second day and placing 36 overall out of all of the male 2A golf competitors this year, which is a pretty good achievement. He was the standout pretty much across the board for the team, led our school in average. I believe Coach Glasser said he averaged a 38 over 9 holes, which is very, very good for a high school golfer. And obviously our, golf players tend to be pretty smart players, lots of math, lots of things like that to be able to play golf well. They had a pretty high team GPA at a 3.348. So again, a pretty successful season for them. Girls golf was coached by Coach Tim Lusk. They had a team GPA of almost a 3.5. They had 11 girls compete this year on that team. Ramey Brewer and Chloe Tweeter both qualified for state. Neither of them, unfortunately, made the cut on the first day, but they did shoot relatively well. They were right at that cut line for the year. And so we're hoping that next year, they'll get back and be able to improve upon their performance and hopefully make the second day next year. But they're both expected again to qualify for state and stuff next year. They're both very good female golfers. Boys soccer was probably our most successful sport here in the spring. Head coach Dave Breckenridge and his 44 players ended up placing 4th in the league. They made the district tournament and ended up winning 3 of their 4 games. Unfortunately, the one they lost was the state qualifying game. They lost to Fife in overtime on a golden goal situation, but they had a really good season overall. Nolan Valenzuela, who was our goalkeeper, was selected as the league defensive player of the year, or the league defensive MVP for the entire Olympic League. Then we also had Josh Alcaraz and Nico Musso were selected as first team all league. And then Evan Cisneros and Colin Fike were selected as second team all league. On a very large team, Coach Breckenridge did a really good job of keeping those kids eligible and their GPAs up. They averaged a 3.097, which again, with 44 kids 44 boys, especially, is pretty impressive. Especially in the springtime when, the flowers start blooming and the sun starts shining and everybody would rather, be outside doing things than doing their homework. The boys soccer team did a really great job of being good student athletes this year. And so, just another feather in their cap for a great season. Our fast pitch team, coached by Coach Mike McFarland, had a team GPA of 3.45. They had 20 girls participate this year. They struggled for a lot of the season because they were a very young team this year. They had quite a few setbacks playing against some of the very tough competition in the Olympic League, but they did end up being able to qualify for the district tournament. And in that district tournament game that they played Fife and they ended up losing to Fife, but the score was 17-14. And so they really fought hard and they had a really good chance to win that game there at the end. But again, you kind of saw the overall inexperience of the team kind of came into play there. So Coach McFarland's coming back with those girls next year. He had talked about retiring for most of the season, but after the last game, he's like, I got one more year left in me. And these girls have something to prove. So even though he's graduating quite a few very influential seniors off of that team, he has really good hopes for that team going into next year as those younger girls improve and they get one more year of experience under their belts. And you can see our all league awards there. Mickey Green, who it will be playing softball in college, was selected as the Olympic League Defensive Player of the Year. And then Mia Kerner and Hannah Giddings, who are both also seniors that graduated this year, also earned all league honors this year. Girls tennis was coached by first-year head coach Andrea Dietzman. She took over for Coach Texter, who had been the girls coach for a long time. She did a great job with those girls this year. She really helped. She really recruited well. They had the biggest girls team that they've had in a long time with over 30 players, 30 consistent players. Their roster actually had like 36 on it, but they had about 30 that showed up just about every single day and competed in most of their competitions. Obviously, great GPA on the tennis team, a 3.620. She had 4 players that qualified for the district tournament and also won all league honors. You can see a picture of them there. It's Tiffany Lamb, Amara Gonzalez, Christina Prorock, and Sasha Yada. Got a little tongue tied there. But again, a great season, and she's really excited about the team moving forward. They should have lots of success in the future, looking to challenge North Kitsap and Bainbridge, hopefully at some point, for their stranglehold that they have on the league in tennis. But again, we've got some great talent that is coming up, and they're really excited about their future moving forward. Track and field, coached by Coach Brad Moore. He had 49 athletes, 26 boys and 23 girls. Overall team GPA, again, very impressive, 3.633. A bunch of all league awards between Birdie Pyatt, Kylie Peters, Don Holstead, Ruben Moxley Horgan, and Claire Torella. And the thing that I'd like to point out about track and field is it's a little bit different, the way they do all league than other sports. Other sports vote on all league. The coaches get together and they vote. They say, like, these players really impressed us from each team. Track does it by meritocracy. In order to win all league, they have to win their event at the league championship. And so Birdie, Kylie, Dawn, Ruby, and Claire all won their events at the league meet. And so that's how they won all league honors. So just kind of wanted to point out that difference with how that works compared to the other sports. We did end up having 8 state qualifiers from track, most of whom placed. Like, for example, Sean got 10th. Reed ended up placing 6th, I believe, in his events. Dawn placed 6th in a couple of her events. And then Claire obviously won her back-to-back state championship in the high jump this year. And there's a picture of her jumping earlier in the season here at Squim. Tried to get a picture of her from the state meet, but for whatever reason, it takes multiple days to order online photos from the state meet. So couldn't get it before tonight. So, but we'll have her obviously as a state champion. She'll be up on the wall of honor in the gym. Once we get those photos and stuff in, we'll be adding her to that wall of honor for the state champions there in the gym. So just kind of an overall thing to kind of wind everything down for the year. These are some of the numbers just overall from the entire year. So this year Squim competed had 23 varsity teams that competed in some form of athletics. We had 370 individual athletes that competed in at least one sport. If you pull it up by the number of multi-sport athletes, that number ends up, if you count each sport that they played as an individual, we ended up having 885 athletes participate. So as you can see, most of those 370 athletes are multi-sport athletes, which means they're playing 2 or 3 sports for us. We had almost 500 games and matches played overall this year. And then we had 42 individual state qualifiers and 19 teams qualified for district or beyond in postseason play. I apologize, my 148 number there is incorrect. So that's supposed to say 848. So I just had a typo. Sorry about that. Want to make sure that so those are just some of the numbers for the athletics program this year. Overall, we had a really successful year. The coaches overall are doing a great job with their athletes. And we'll look to continue to support them and continue to grow the athletic program here over the next few years. And kind of in that vein, the last thing that I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about tonight is kind of the coming attractions for next year. Some of the things that we're going to be starting and kind of changing and adjusting the way we do athletics with Squim next year. So the first thing that we're doing is this summer, and it started this morning, is that we started an all sport strength and conditioning program, which is designed for all of our athletes, no matter what sport they play. It's 2 hours per day. We'll be working speed, strength, agility, and flexibility with those athletes. And so Mondays and Wednesdays, they'll be out at the track working on speed and agility stuff. Tuesdays and Thursdays, they'll be in the weight room working on strength and flexibility. We have 2 of our track coaches have volunteered their Mondays and Wednesdays throughout the summer to work with all of our athletes to get them faster and to get them more agile. We have found a certified strength and conditioning coach who actually works for the casino part-time. But he wants to get into more, he interned at Grand Canyon University, was part of Grand Canyon University's strength and conditioning program when he was in college. He is working with our athletes this summer on the strength aspect of those things. He'll be part of our football staff also in the fall, kind of as our strength and conditioning coach. He'll be working with Coach Wicker throughout the year next year as Coach Wicker's assistant in kind of like the weight, because Coach Wicker does those after school weight room lifts and things like that in the off season. So he'll be a resource for Coach Wicker to be able to lean on, to be able to get our students, basically, we're just working to get our students stronger and faster to be able to stand up to the rigors of their season and things like that, and hopefully minimize injuries as much as possible. Then next year, we'll also be moving to the state of Washington allows athletes to fail one class. But after talking with the principal, with Aaron Fox, and also with Kristen Lunt at the middle school and the high school, we have come to the determination that next year that swim athletics will be moving to what we call a no pass, no play policy, and that we'll be requiring our athletes to be passing all of their classes if they want to be eligible to play on the field. While the state allows that one class, we don't feel like that really pushes the student athlete aspect of things the way that we want to. And so we'll be upping the requirements for our athletes to be able to be eligible. And so far the kids have been really, really positive about that. And most of our coaches have this policy on their teams anyway. Coach Weber with volleyball has done this for the last 30 years. Coach Breckenridge with the boys soccer team has this policy also. So for most of the kids, it's not going to be a huge change. It's just something that we want to do to really make sure that our kids understand how much academics is important, even though they are also athletes. And so to kind of support that, we'll also be moving towards with the RTI tutorials and things like that we have at the high school campus. We'll be having mandatory tutorials for the athletes that are failing during their seasons. They will come in with me during those RTI periods, and we will sit down, and if they need extra help on classes, they'll be getting extra help. If they, if they just need to have a space to sit down and basically somebody, stand over their shoulder and say, get your work done, get your work done, get your work done, then that's what we'll do. And so we're gonna provide them tools to continue to be successful, but also up the level of requirements that we have for them. Because as we all know, high school kids especially they'll meet whatever bar you set for them. And rather than have a low bar set, we're going to set a high bar to try to really make our kids more successful as they move on past us and into their professional and collegiate lives and things like that. To kind of go along with that, this summer we will also be updating the athletic code of conduct. Right now, the athletic code of conduct has not been updated in 17 years, I believe was the last time it was updated. So there are some things that are very archaic in there as far as there's very little mention about like social media policy. There's very little mention about the different disciplinary aspects and things like that we have to deal with in today's day and age with substance abuse and things like that. Really, the only substance that it talks about in the current athletic code of conduct is alcohol. So we just have to update those policies and things like that to make sure that we're modernizing everything, making sure that we're meeting state rules, state laws, things like that, to make sure that all of our policies are kind of up to date. Miss Fox and I will be working on that here over the summer. If there's anything that you guys need to be aware of as we work through that, as far as being able to approve or things like that, we'll obviously be bringing those items to you as we kind of develop that. And then we'll also be creating, which we have not had here in the past, is a coach's handbook for our coaching staff that outlines things like evaluation processes, expectations, things like that. So that will be codified and will be somewhere where we can refer back to, because right now we have lots of things that we do with coaches, but very few of them are written down. And so we want to make sure that we have those policies and procedures in place, so that way we can, one, attract better coaches to our area when we have open positions, and also too, so that way our coaches know exactly what's expected of them before we run into issues, and before we want to be proactive with things rather than reactionary to things. And so we will be developing that over the summer also. And again, anything that needs to be brought to you guys for approval and stuff like that will be brought to you in a timely manner, so that way we can address those issues and get that put together for our coaches moving into next year. So other than that, unless you guys have any questions for me, that concludes swim athletics for this school year.
Great. Well, thank you. That's a lot to share, and definitely would just ask you, pass on the board's appreciation to all of the coaches, and, we appreciate their dedication, and, a lot of stuff happening. So
It is, it's exciting.
yeah, absolutely. Any questions?
I was just gonna say that the development and revision of the handbook sounds like such a great idea, all about expectations, both for students and for coaches. And the more that that's clear, the better everybody
I agree.
do their jobs.
Mhm.
So it's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
No pass, no play. That's on a weekly basis, I mean, like if
So-
I'm not passing, but by Wednesday I'm passing, I can then
So,
participate
so
on-
what we're actually going to do is we're going to add a little bit of teeth to it. So the way the state does things right now is that students that weren't passing the previous year at the first grade check, which is the 5th Saturday for some reason, but we do it on the Friday, the 5th Friday of the school year, which usually is about the third weekend in September, third, fourth weekend, depending on how the calendar works out, is if they're not passing classes, then they're automatically suspended for 3 weeks. And then you start having grade checks then you have another grade check after 3 weeks to see if they become eligible. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to just expand that throughout the entire school year. And that for a couple different reasons. One is, so grade checks will start that first date, and this next year it's going to be September 26th, I believe. Anybody who's not passing a class will then become ineligible for 3 weeks, and they will not be able to gain back eligibility until 3 weeks later at the next official grade check. Because right now, with the way things are going, is we run into a lot of what you're talking about. We have kids that become ineligible, and then 2 hours later, they're trying to be at my office like, I got my grade changed, I can be eligible now. And it puts a lot of pressure on teachers, and it puts a lot of pressure on us as an athletic staff to make sure that we're actually seeing grades that have been corrected and changed and that are actually passing. And it's not just a quick like flash where then we turn around and all of a sudden they're ineligible again the next day. And so we want to make sure that the kids understand that their classes are important. And so we're putting a little bit of teeth into that as far as whether they will be ineligible for 3 weeks, and then they won't be able to earn back that eligibility until the next official grade check date. And then all their grades have to be passing on that official grade check date, not just the class they weren't passing previously. So if they're taking 6 classes and they failed 1, they have to be passing all 6 at the next grade check, or they're still going to be ineligible. And then they'll be ineligible for another 3 weeks. But that allows teachers to have a set time that they know, like, hey, if my grades are updated by these dates, then my athletes will be accurate, and they won't be coming to bother me about like, hey, can you put this in? Can you do this? Can we change this? And so there's that aspect to it. And then also the kids know what day they have to have their grades up by. And so then there's no excuse. And we'll publish those dates at the beginning of the school year to both teachers and the athletes at the beginning of their season, so they know what dates the grade checks are on. So that way there won't be any confusion, and there won't be the, well, I didn't know excuse and things like that we run into all the time.
They're still able to practice.
Still able to practice, just cannot participate in competition.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anything else? Okay, well, appreciate it.
No
Great-
problem.
Great work going on. So
Thank you very
excellent.
much. You guys have a good summer, and
All right.
we'll see you guys around. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay. And those are our 2 special presentations. That's gonna bring us to the approval of our minutes, approval of our agenda. And that do have an amendment to the agenda because we have a board resolution for approving or acceptance of the cross laminated timber building at Great Wolf Elementary and a official sign off on that. So you all should have a resolution in front of you that we'll also be sharing, but we're adding that as a action item to the agenda that will be, call it 10.03. So, so with that amendment, is there any objection to the approval of June 2nd minutes, the agenda, as well as the consent agenda?
I don't have any objection to the approval, but I did want to take a moment to thank for a donation from John and Patricia Lebowitz for a $5,000 donation from the Tony and Giuliano Scholarship Fund to the Sequim High School Counseling Department.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. All right. Hearing no objection, we'll consider those approved. And that we will move on to the public comment portion of the meeting. If you are attending the meeting right now via Zoom and would like to make public comment, please do so by using the raise hand feature located on the bottom of your Zoom screen. I think that it actually might be under the react icon of Zoom, perhaps. So I'll have to start remembering to mention that specifically. Any public comment? Okay. Not seeing a raised hand and not seeing anybody signed up live, so we will go ahead and move past the public comment portion of the meeting. We will not have our student board representative reports, as that is school's out for summer, and that's going to move us to the ALE report. All right.
Good evening, Director, Superintendent Nichols, Assistant Superintendent Hudson. It's my pleasure to present the 24-25 ALE School Board Report. I promise this presentation will be brief, sincere, and then I'll be seated. Our mission statement parallels that of our Sequim School District, with one exception, is that ALE tends to really customize its educational opportunities and resources to a fine level. We really try to tailor our programs to meet the needs of our students and clients and parents that come into those programs. Tonight I'll be talking about the two programs that we currently run, which is our online school, Dungeness Virtual School, and our parent partnership school, which is Olympic Peninsula Academy. Next slide. Rather than get into a lot of the specifics in terms of day-to-day operations, I really wanted to make sure that the board had a good understanding of the uniqueness of the ALE programs and what drives that uniqueness as compared to our general education programs at large. And so we do fall underneath the WAC regulations 392, 121, and 182. There are some key requirements that we'll be going over that really kind of set us apart from other programs here at the district. Next slide, please. One of these is a student learning plan. These requirements are for both ALE programs. And the SLP is something that just think of it as a living document that guides a teacher, a student, and a family through the educational journey in the ALE programs. SLPs are standard across our district within the ALE spectrum, but they're not standard across the state. They can have several variations, but they must all include the learning goals and performance objectives, the instructional materials and learning activities to be used, the methods for evaluating student performance, and then the timelines and schedules for learning activities. And we meet those requirements in both programs. Next slide, please. Every student enrolled in Olympic Peninsula Academy or Dungeness Virtual School develops a personalized student learning plan. And this really is in support from their ALE certificated teacher, the SLP advisor. And for both programs, you need to have certificated teachers do that portion of the programmatics. Now, these plans really act as a guide, and if they're not working, we have the capability to revisit them throughout the year. In fact, you'll see that we have several times that we meet with the students face to face, virtually, and then we contact them as well. Next slide, please. In both programs, students must maintain a weekly contact with a certificated teacher. In Olympic Peninsula Academy, obviously, we have a 4-day in-residence opportunity for students to meet. Now, students don't have to take all of those days at the Olympic Peninsula Academy. They can mix and match the days that they come, but they still must come and make a weekly contact with a certificated teacher. And for our online school, these contacts can happen through in-person meetings, by phone, or synchronous digital communication, which is a fancy way of saying I send you an email and you send me one back. The purpose is to ensure that engagement and provide instructional support. And I also think that we roll it into a little bit of our attendance policy as well. Next slide, please. Each month, the student and family members go through a monthly progress review. Now, every other month, we meet with those families face to face, or in the case of DVS, virtually or on the phone. But at Olympic Peninsula Academy, those families are really becoming a part of our campus. And so a certificated teacher must evaluate and document the student's progress at least once per month. If the student doesn't make satisfactory progress, we put in place an intervention plan. Typically, we give a student 30 days to prove their progress. If they do not prove that they're making progress, the intervention plan comes into place, and that's usually a 15-day to 30-day process that we put the student through, depending upon the severity of the academic performance. With Olympic Peninsula Academy, we really have had very few disenrolled due to an intervention plan that was failed. I think we average about 1.5 students a year over a 5-year period of disenrollments there. However, in the online school, we've had several disenrolled because we don't have as much direct contact with those students and as much availability to really interface with those students in meaningful ways because they are online. Next slide, please. While much of ALE can be remote, face-to-face meetings is really a preferred method for us. And we do these at least every other month. Now, in some cases, parents who are on the Olympic Peninsula Academy weekly, we're meeting with those parents all the time anyhow. I would venture a guess that we probably meet weekly with our parents about 70% of the time. I mean, so of our population of parents, that's a lot of parents on campus. And part of the reason for that is one of the requirements to be enrolled in Olympic Peninsula Academy per child is a 30-hour volunteer quota that the parents sign up to and commit to. After you reach 3 children, which would be 90 hours, the 4th children's free. So just something to keep in mind if you want to have a burgeoning family. But we do a pretty good job of managing that, I think. And we do have staff that are assigned to ensure that those volunteer hours are being tracked and that the face-to-face meetings are being tracked. Next slide. Over the past 5 years, this is some of the increases to our enrollments. With the Olympic Peninsula Academy, you've seen from 2021 to present, from numbers of enrolled, a little more than 50 students increase, and an increase on the FTE right around 35 or so on average. Now, those numbers tend to fluctuate throughout the year a little bit, not as much for Olympic Peninsula Academy. We usually have a fairly static enrollment. We'll lose 1 or 2 during the year, either to student decisions to move either in or out of the area or to a different school. But typically, the enrollments we start at Olympic Peninsula Academy with are usually the ones we end up with, minus 1 or 2 students. Dungeness Virtual School, on the other hand, is very fluid. And that enrollment tends to peak and valley throughout the year. It takes a little time to get everybody enrolled, into that process. Beginning in September, our enrollment rates are usually low. By October, we get to a steady state. And then November, we're probably at a peak state. And then right before semester, We have disenrollments and then re-enrollments. Remember, both programs are K-12, and we share a lot of our enrollments with a variety of entities within the district. Next slide, please. I had anticipated having the numbers for you in terms of the shared numbers, but it's not uncommon to have someone who's enrolled at OPA also be enrolled at the high school, or in some cases, enrolled at the middle school, or in some cases, enrolled at OPA, DVS, and the high school. And so it is a bit of a trick to manage that from a registrar perspective. And some of those numbers tend to be fluid in terms of month to month. Our monthly counts are very important to us because they kind of give us the baseline for where we're at. And that gives us an opportunity to budget wisely against those baselines. Next slide, please. There's a little picture of our newly painted gym. I want to do a shout out to Mr. Charette, who did the painting and also changed it from the home of the Cubs, which it hasn't been that way for a long time, to home of the Otters. We're a vicious little animal, but we are a community oriented. Next slide. Just a little breakout on the differences between Olympic Peninsula Academy and DVS. Typically, we're on a 4-day a week program, standard program there. We do offer learning assistance program and high dose tutoring in that week. And often we extend through to Friday for those students who are failing or falling behind. Our standard core offerings are about 2.5 days. That's your English, math, science, history, PE. Our schedule of elected offerings are 1.5 days. We changed it. Traditionally, it had been 2 days and 2 days, but we saw that, and particularly with the increase in students, we were not getting as much fidelity on some of their education and learning. And so we went to more core time and less enrichment time. We also leveraged that enrichment time with the state standards. So a lot of our enrichment instruction parallels core offerings in terms of the standards. Next slide. And I think it paid off for Olympic Peninsula Academy this year. These were the Smarter Balance scores that were cataloged this year. You'll see that the majority of those scores are equal to or greater than the state and district standards. In one case, though, in 6th grade, you'll see there's a little bit of a low there, and we are drilling down that in terms of the math. The thing about OPA, it's kind of funny. Our ELA scores traditionally for the last probably 25 years have always been high. And I always say we're readers, we're not very analytical, but we're good readers. And you'll see those are some pretty skyrocketing scores there across the spectrum. And I'm pretty proud of those scores. I'm proud of the work the teachers are doing. And we tend to, we can focus either on the high or the low, but I want you to think about this. Out of those kids that tested, 26 of them have IEPs and 14 are on 504s. So more than 1/3 of our kids, about 36% who tested there, have IEPs or 504s. And I would challenge you to come to our campus and try to pick out those kids just by watching them, who they are. You probably won't. And I think that's a real tribute to the work the parents are doing and the staff is doing to raise those scores up. In particular, in 6th grade, we have 5 kids that are on IEPs. 4th grade, 5 kids that are on IEPs. So I'm pretty proud of those scores, given some of the learning challenges that we have that come into our campus. And I also want you to recognize that OPA and DVS, even though we have access to learning support services and some of the therapists and physical therapists and speech therapists on our district, we have no organic capability on our campus. So working closely with Learning Support Service and also our Director of Teaching and Learning, those supports coming to us, we've really been able to put together a pretty good team with, kind of the Swiss Army knife approach of teachers. Next slide. Our staffing. These are the contracted numbers in that second column, and then the hours. And then the assignments, I'll just let you go ahead and review those. We do have several of our staff, again, do multiple subjects, multiple grade bands. And then we do have some sped support that has been carved out for our general education teacher to help us with managing the 504s and the IEPs. And then Michelle Canepa has been able to do lap support. And then we've been able to leverage a little bit of the lap support into our instructional coaches who actually work with Michelle to do some of that learning assistance program support. I'm really proud of the way that the district has worked with us in terms of supporting Olympic Peninsula Academy. It's a team effort. I'm really very proud of the way the teaching staff and the administrative staff, and even our custodial support flexes around this unique program. It's really quite a community. Next slide, please. Dungeness Virtual Schools in its 5th year. We have 4 teachers assigned. We have a 0.2 that comes out of OPA. Mr. Pinza provides that, and he typically works with OPA kids who are shared with DVS. And again, they follow the same kind of ALE requirements that OPA has. Next slide. We have several challenges that we see in DVS. One, we have a higher number of required interventions. Student progress tends to be, I don't want to even use the word fluid, but I would say that student progress many times is month to month. And I've had to sit on a number of required interventions. And I think the effect of these interventions are not always where I want them to be, because you get a lot of high promise and a lot of low delivery in an online program from your student staff, your students. Another challenge we have, and this really affects our, and we'll go over this in the CSIP this coming week when we have a chance to meet with you, but we see a lot of number of late year transfers into the program, which impacts not only our test scores, but our ability to turn anything around. We have a high number of inherited behavior and truancy issues that come into our program. It's kind of like we're the online school seems to be almost like the last gasp sometimes for a kid. Now, I will say that there are many good examples where we've been able to turn those kids around. The staff has worked hard and diligently with them. But I don't know that we're there yet. I think we have some challenges that we need to collectively look at and address. We have a high number of social emotional learning support transfers, people who have high levels of anxiety, health conditions, certain elements of their own emotional development that they feel they're not suitable for in-person instruction. Those students are very challenging to address and to work with. In some cases, we've had successes, but in more cases than not, we've not been able to turn the corner with them. And I'm just being frank. I mean, I love good news, but I think some of this to me is bad news. I think we need to review this program very closely. We have limited sped service capability. Again, when they're online, and some students who will say they have anxiety to the point where they won't come to campus, very difficult to put sped services into those students' rooms. We have limited capability to ensure academic integrity and rigor, particularly with ChatGPT. Now, we run them through screening processes and those kinds of things. But when a kid is working online and they're behind many minutes of their units, and then all of a sudden in a day or two, they catch up with everything, that doesn't tell me that it's a very good program with respect to integrity. And then there's a lot of complex processes to ensure accurate enrollment and disenrollment between the shared entities. And I don't think that we're the only ones who experience that level of frustration. In fact, what I'm telling you is the frustrations that are given to me from these other entities between the middle school and high school and even running START programs. You have a moving transcript. And particularly when kids get into that 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, we have to be very diligent in how we track those transcript credits. And honestly, I don't think that we do a very good job. I think that the high school has come on board at a very high level this year, and particularly the counselors there, to support DVS in a much more strong position. And I think we've cleaned a lot of that up. But this program is developing. It's like building a ship as we sail it. It's not all bad news. There's a lot of good news, a lot of good things that happen with DVS. We have a highly dedicated staff, very capable staff. I've sat in on a number of their interventions, and they provide all the right solutions and all the right answers. But when you're not working with the student day to day, face to face, it's harder to make sure those solutions are followed through on. There's a lot of flexible and varied options and choices for students, and we've seen real successes in some of these instances, and particularly some where students have such a high level of anxiety to come to a social setting and they have health concerns. We've been able to really address those, and I think our staff has done a good job of facilitating that kind of instruction. We see a great number of course options. Students tend to lean into that. We have a unique ability to create hybrid programs of study. We have unique SEL supports at home sometimes, because we not only work with potentially our own learning support services, but clinical behavioral health and other kinds of supports. Students access a customized flexible education schedule, and for those who take the initiative, they can move right through it fairly quickly and do so. And then finally, we create a potential option for behavioral challenge student placements. And we see that there have been some successes there, but far too few. Next slide. Again, I do want us to take a concerned and considerate look at how we're delivering online services. I've talked it over with our superintendent, my boss, the assistant superintendent, and I've voiced my concerns to them, and I wanted you to share in those as well. On the one hand, we have very capable staff, and we have fairly vibrant and dynamic programs, but I think we can do better on the online setting, and I want your inputs. Are there any questions for me?
Yeah.
Director Roca.
I have a question on, I think it was slide number 8. It's the Olympic Peninsula Academy and the Dungeness, the DVS enrollment.
Yeah.
It looks like 24-25 was different from all the other years.
That's correct.
Is it the amount of enrollment that we received? Was there some changes that we did just because it's different from all the rest numbers?
Right.
Don't
Up until this year, we counted only default heads for enrollment.
Okay.
And what a default head is if you only have a student for 50% or less, the default goes to the high school. So this year, I just wanted you to see the numbers of kids that are enrolled, because even though the default head, it goes against, say, your FTE total, and factors in some, algorithm there. The fact that when you get one kid enrolled in your program, all those processes, sorry about that, all those processes have to take place. And so it's important that we understand that the default head count that you see in the lower 23, 24 and below doesn't necessarily accurately reflect the amount of work that goes in to the actual enrolled student. And so this year I included the actual number of average number of enrollment. And I would tell you that 151 for OPA, that was their enrollment. That's not just the average. It stayed that way pretty much through the whole year. With DVS, we finished the year about 180, 178 enrolled, but we started the year much lower. Because then that fluctuation gave us that average of 158. So I appreciate that question and an opportunity.
Just the reporting is different for that year, not the number. So they're probably similar for like the previous year. When I look at the FTE, similar.
Yes, I would say they're the similar for those 2 years, but you can see that on the left-hand column with Olympic Peninsula Academy, we've made a concerted effort to increase the capacity of our campus, whereas with online school, we have taken what we can take. Again, we do pay overages by contract to those teachers. What we changed this last year from previous years was we were paying overages for a student who was enrolled for one class. Right. This year, I said, no, let's not enroll students for just one class unless there's an exception that requires us to. Let's make sure the standard enrollment for a classware was 3 classes or greater. And that way, we weren't just having a kid come in for one class and then paying overages to that teacher once they got past 40.
Thank you for that.
Maren?
I have a question about both OPA and Virtual Academy. When you do admissions, now I understand OPA actually has an issue of wait list. And DVS has the different issues about fit. In this setting, how do you manage admissions? Is there like an assessment in terms of, is this a good match for the student, or is it first come, first served, or how do you determine the fit?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I don't want to belabor the answer, but there are a few things that fit into that metric. When I first took over OPA in, well, this is my end of my third year, so it would have been 21, 22, 22, 23, that time frame. OPA had and still does maintain a pretty robust wait list. We were coming out of COVID, where a lot of our students who were enrolled in OPA at that time were almost refugees from COVID. Most of them had come from the general education setting, and they were not necessarily your traditional homeschoolers. When I worked at OPA as a teacher from 2015 to 2019, the primary client that we had there, the majority of them were homeschooled kids in partnership with the staff there to create OPA to what it is. What we found was, when I took over in 21, 22, was this a lot of students wanting to come into the program, but we're not really capable for the homeschool aspect of this, because even though we run a 4-day program, parents still have to pick up about 7.5 hours of instruction. And if they're not doing that instruction at home, and if they're not really prepared for that instruction at home, it's very difficult for them to meet the standards. The superintendent, Nichols, when she came on board here, she really challenged us to get back to our roots in Olympic Peninsula Academy, which was to go outside of our district and bring in those homeschooled kids, or those kids who are in, other programs that are not necessarily assigned to our district. This way, we were not just shell gaming full-time equivalent students from a building to OPA and back again. We were actually gaining new FTE into the district, and we were addressing the homeschool gaps that exist in our community. And so that is one metric we use for the Olympic Peninsula Academy. Is the student in district or out of district? Is the student a homeschool, traditional kind of homeschool kid that would be a good fit for this program? Or is this student, not really, and this parent not really prepared? We also have a wait list. And if you're on the wait list, we certainly look at where you are on that wait list. Then we interview the parents, and we give them kind of a briefing of what's the expectation. I would say 90% of the time, it's a fit. The other 10%, parents will say, I don't know. I don't think this is a fit for me and my kid. We'd much rather have that than have the parents just push the kid into a program that they're not going to be successful at. With online school, again, really the only metric we've used was how many classes is the student wanting to take, and do we have enough room in the program to take them. Currently, our middle school and high school staff have a 40 or below, a 40 cap at their caseload. If we go over that, we then go to paying overages to those teachers. Our elementary program, K6 or K5, has a 27 caseload. Now, before I took the program over, my predecessor, Mr. Riccabini, he'd screen them pretty hard before they came into the program, making sure there was a good fit. With the laws that were changing in the state at the time when I took the program over, reference to equity and access, I got rid of the screening process other than what is going to be the number of classes you're going to take. Because every student who comes into an ALE program is immediately in a probationary status. They have 30 days to show progress. Then if there's no progress, we can then go to an intervention program. About 80% of the kids will show progress right out of the gate.
Is there a
Patrice.
waiting list for DVS as well, or?
During the year, we do get a waiting list to build up. It does not exceed what we have at OPA. Typically, our waiting list is somewhere between 8 and 12 students. And we try to accommodate them to the degree we can.
I'm curious when you say that, some of the students say that, they have such a high level anxiety that they don't want to come in and for any in-person kind of interaction. Do you require any kind of like medical proof of that? Or do we just accept that if that's where the students?
Many times those students will come to us by referral through the counselors from our either middle school or high school. Sometimes we will have doctors' references and notes in there, but they will usually be sent from that counseling team to us.
Okay. Also, one other question, when you were talking about sort of the complications of trying to accommodate somebody who's at OPA and DVS and the high school or also and running START, it sounds like maybe there would be some, it might be a good idea to think about limiting how many choices students have. Is that a possibility? I mean, it sounds like it's a pretty difficult administrative conundrum right now to keep track of.
I would
plus
agree.
just the physical challenge of having a kid being in all these different places.
I would agree.
Mhm.
And I will take a note and make sure that we, again, because we share between buildings, it's been, again, the program itself was built kind of in a vacuum. But now that the program is to the degree that it is, it really requires Principal Fox and Principal Lunt, myself, along with the counseling team, and then our staff to weigh in on this so that we get a real good mix for that. And that's something we've really done this year is we've identified issues. I don't know that we've come to real good solutions at this point.
So I have a couple of questions.
Sure. I was kind of hoping you'd ask.
Well, as you know,
You bet.
maybe a little bit in my wheelhouse, but there's still always have questions. The first thing I'm wondering about is the probationary period. So I'm very familiar with the intervention plan model and
Sure.
what's needed there, but I know at Seaview, for example, they have a 3-week probationary
Mhm.
period to where they don't even do a monthly progress report. It's pretty much nope, this isn't going to work out, like you're out kind of a situation. And I don't know where the rules are around there, but I know that's the somewhat of the practice there. And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
because we're pretty upfront with families when they're enrolling about like we're going to see how this goes for a few weeks, and
Right.
if it's not going well, we're pulling the plug. Is that something that that we've looked at, taking a pretty firm approach
Sure.
to how things start off?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. I think that for elementary school kids and so forth, that's probably a good fit for them. However, in particular, when we get to middle and high school, we're really trying to align this time frame on the quarter.
Mhm.
So we have 30 days of probation and 15 days of intervention. That puts us right at quarter 1. And that way the student starts fresh into a new program, potentially at the high school or the middle school at quarter 2.
Mhm.
And I think that's where we've come up with that. Now, it's been traditional since, I inherited the program. It's been a 30-day probationary period and to show that progress. And I think beginning, you have that first week of kind of bedding down into the program, getting used to that. There's a lot of grace given in that first week. And then you see the next 2 to 3 weeks, and there's some warning shots that go for those students that, are reluctant to make their contacts or are not keeping up. Where I found the issue really, goes back to the heart of the teacher, is that often a teacher will say, I think if we give this kid 1 more week or maybe 2 more weeks, and once we push past that first quarter, now we're really endangering whether that student's going to be able to make credit for that year.
Right.
And so we really have to take a close look at what is the best mix for particularly those high school students
Sure.
who are on that Core 24.
Yeah.
So I'm open to suggestions on that, but I am concerned that the program has not demonstrated fidelity with respect to its ability to achieve the right scores at the end of the year.
Okay, all right. One of the other things that I'm wondering if we've explored, and this is obviously a broader question, but we've um they they were also looking at basically students that maybe just wanted to take one course, and they were at the high school, but they wanted to go online to one course. And I think that one of the things that again, talking to the district to the west of here, but they're looking at offering edgenuity courses within the high school, but not an ALE for those, particularly for those brick and mortar students that are, and I know that's a high school question. That's something that they, but it does sort of separate the ones that truly this is a path that online school works for them. They're an online student versus ones that are, for whatever reason, just wanting to do
Right.
one or two, classes. So I just,
My experience when I was here as a teacher, I worked in SOS, which Taylor Thorson runs today, and that's a very similar program to what you're explaining there.
Right.
So there is capability for students who want to pick up that one course
Sure.
Through Apex as opposed to Edgenuity.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know that we have a redundant capability, but I know that we have a parallel one.
Sure.
And I do think that as much as I'd like to solve this problem today, it's going to take a little bit more
Yeah.
brain space collaboratively to get this right, because the programs are so fluid and affect so many kids within our district. We want to get this right. Bottom line for me is this, is I think my staff is working diligently to address these issues, but I think the program in terms of its process and its systems don't greatly support our community of students in a way that it should or could.
Mhm.
And I think it really does require us a top-down review of it.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I
thank
hate
you
to
very
put
much.
that out there. I love this to be all rainbows and roses, but sometimes you just need to hear, straight across the bow.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah, no, it's good, certainly good feedback, and this is where the work has to begin, so.
And I would love to collaborate with Seaview to see how you guys are addressing some of your high school and middle school issues.
Yeah,
Because I think, as with any good program, we borrow from other good programs.
Sure.
And I would really like DVS to be a great program.
yeah,
But I don't know that we're there yet. Not
Yeah.
even close.
so, okay,
Any other questions that I may address? Appreciate your attention and engagement in this discussion.
thank you. Yeah, why don't we do a quick recess? We'll do 5 minutes. Sound good? Okay.
We're doing our 5-minute recess.
Yeah. There's and loop you in on some of the things that they're doing now, because they're finding, like, with the drop in enrollment that sometimes started that. bring us back to order. And we next have our finance and enrollment report.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening again. I am pleased to bring to you this evening the budget status report for May. First thing we always look at is our enrollment. Here is what enrollment is looking like towards the end of the school year. I believe during our last report, we signaled that enrollment seemed to have leveled off. And as you can see, that is what the graph is showing us. Here's our comparison from what we budgeted to what our actual enrollment is. We are still 18 ahead of budget, but as you can see, we've had a few more fluctuations. Now we move to our 5 funds. This is our 3-year revenue trend for the general fund. This is the slide where I do a little comparison between May of 24 and May of 25 to show you how we're tracking year to year. I have to tell you, so many of these things fluctuate anyway. This is interesting, but it's not necessarily a beautiful forecasting tool. It's just interesting information. And our expenditure trend. And our detail, the percent expended is right about where we like to see it this time of year. So I feel good that we are on track meeting the goals that we have set for ourselves. And this is the full financial summary of our revenues and our expenditures for the general fund. And our fund balance. You can see that 22, 23, and 24, 25 are in a dead heat right now on this graph. And here's where we are currently falling in terms of our percentage of the fund balance. It's our 5-year trend for our general fund balance. And now we'll just move through the rest of our 4 funds. Again, I believe I said this last month, I'm not bringing to you anything too interesting this month. The debt service fund. Capital projects. Spending that one down, and our transportation vehicle fund. I think we're going to get those buses at some point. And that's it for the budget status report. I do want to forecast for you that we have received word that our apportionment for June from the state will be a little lower than expected, and then it will be made up for in July. The state is working through their own budget issues, right? So, yeah.
Are we supposed to be receiving that? There's that $50 per student that's supposed to come in June? Is that coming in June?
Do either of you want to speak to that?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
You hear me okay?
Yeah.
No. We need you to use a mic.
We'll bring one to you.
We'll bring it to you.
What she was sharing with you is the state has the same problems that we have. The legislature votes an appropriation for them to spend in a given year. And when they hit June, which is the last month of their fiscal year, if their money that they've shoved out the door is at a certain level, does not allow them to shove out what goes on in June, all they can push out is to the limit of their apportionment. They don't get to do budget extensions like we do. And so when they hit that wall, they have to stop. And then they can make it up the next month provided somebody's watching them. Ooh, I should have said that in a public meeting. But yes, they will make it up, but it doesn't help us any in the cash flow, I guess what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Okay.
Questions?
Great. Okay. Next up, Superintendent Nichols and I will tag team through this report a little bit, but you've already had a little bit of a preview. This is our illustrious team who has been working with us on this project. So we have Director Boyd, our Director of Fiscal Operations, and Steve McIntyre, who is our financial consultant, and Kathy Wright, who is our payroll specialist. And each of these folks play pivotal roles in helping us develop these budgets. And, it gets pretty exciting in our office sometimes as we're working through the numbers and adding and re-adding and multiplying and figuring it all out. So I'm really grateful for this team of people, super smart and very competent in their work. And they have played a big role in helping us put this together tonight. So what is a budget? You all know this. A school district budget is a financial plan for turning public dollars into student success. It's a blueprint that guides how we invest in learning, staff, and safe and thriving schools. Some things, you already know this, but I will bring this up again. Budgets are legal documents. The school district budget in Washington are legal spending plans that are adopted by this body annually, and they authorize all our expenditures for the year. They need to be balanced. We use our 5 funds to structure our budget, and we receive funding from multiple sources, and our enrollment is what drives our revenue. And as you know, staffing is the largest expense in our budget, about 80%, and that budgets need to be adopted by August 31st by the board. Did you want to speak to this?
Yes, so we've been tracking cash flow, and the reason I want to discuss this now is that what we're doing around our planning is also looking back at what status we think we're going to exit this current year with. This is our most recent cash flow graph. And this graph shows where we are for targeting what we had anticipated in order to land at an approximately 5% fund balance. And I've certainly heard from the board, keep pushing that. 5% is a good direction, but let's get closer to the 6. So I just want you to see that it seems as though our projections are working, but we have considerable expenses to pay in June, July, and August. And I'll give you some examples. Paying for cash outs. So we have folks who cash out sick leave, or maybe buying out some vacation. We have folks who are working to make expenditures on curriculums or supplies for their school for the ensuing year. We also have some outside expenses like maintenance. Just in the past 4 school days, I've received word about some things that have happened that we did not expect, like OPA's water main breaking. And then we have a situation at the high school now we're looking into around corroded pipes. So we know the bathroom sewers for the auditorium have to be addressed. All of this contributes to what we need to look at. Some is in the general fund. When you have some of the fixes that need to happen for maintenance, it's not all capital projects fund. So we know there's still pressure here. So I'm not sure if we'll stay exactly on the orange line, but at least we've made it this far being right on target. So we're glad about that.
Thank you. Okay, so this is our budgeted enrollment for the coming year, projected total enrollment. And do we want to speak to how we came up with these numbers? Would we like to have?
Yes.
Yes, so to find these numbers, we took the running average of this current year. So we took all.
You're gonna have to come up to the other microphone also. Please.
At the same time or just this one?
I think
Both.
both.
Okay. So we took the current running average of this school year's enrollment. And at the end of that, we took the whole running average, and for each one of those, we took the grade level, added them all up, and that's what you get. So K through 3 for Gray Wolf was basically the average of this year.
So we have looked at different models for calculating enrollment. We've gone ahead this year and moved out with the average because we've seen that historically we can't be working at the high that occurs when we have fall enrollment. We always have that historical drop off, and Victoria's work on making sure we have the historical graphs show us that. We also have the information about birth rate, and we've looked at the birth rate year for students who will be kindergartners. So we feel like the average puts us in the best position. This average, though, this number that we have total, the 2525, is additional students beyond what we budgeted for this year.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So we are definitely trying to push being too conservative and make the call so that we have the appropriate revenue that we're planning for. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have some slides to move through our revenues. I believe we may have shared with this group in the past that we have been waiting for the tools to come for us to put together a more solid group of numbers that we can be a little bit more confident about. So this team has been working very hard at working with these tools and putting together our revenues and our expenditures.
So I'd like to speak about this as a draft because that's where we are. These numbers are becoming increasingly clear that we expect to get the revenues that we are going to go over with you. But I do want to talk to you about this part. Some school districts in our state are making some pretty radical decisions around revenue. They aren't, for instance, counting the revenue that's anticipated from some special sources like federal funding. Okay, we are not making that decision. We have done a slight reduction so that we can be aligned with what we're hearing from OSPI, but we are budgeting for that revenue to come in. If we find out in August or beyond in the school year that that revenue is not coming, we've got to have the fund balance to be able to handle that because we've already contracted our people.
So this previous slide is our state and local revenues, and this is federal, and this is where some of the programs that Superintendent Nichols was speaking of are listed.
Can I just ask a quick question? If we did find out all of a sudden that we were losing a substantial portion of the federal revenue, is there something in the CBA that would allow us to address that with our employees in terms of the contract? Or
we do have funding emergency language, but you would be looking at a substantial request for reduction in force, and I'm not sure that there has to be a response to that within the school year for certificated. It's classified where we would be able to make those decisions, but we could approach our associations and ask for their help. You know, I certainly feel like we'd be in a position to do that. Yeah. And let's just go back to the revenue. I just want to be clear with you all that we're looking at every revenue stream that we can. And the apportionment coming in, of course, is generated from that enrollment. So us making a decision and looking at different models has been entirely to try to make a good decision about what we can anticipate for this apportionment coming in that we can count on, but not being too low, because that doesn't give us the ability to staff as robustly as we'd like to.
You'll notice that on this slide, we didn't budget anything for federal forests. we just wanted to address that here. We did not include it because timber harvest payments, they vary widely from year to year, and it's just too unpredictable to be smart in our budgeting.
Just to give you a sense, you know, our federal forest revenue is definitely under $200,000 if we get it in a year. We don't always know when we are. Timber sales are often paused. And so the consistency of how that money comes in is really a challenge. So we don't want to be resting on that.
Okay. Here's our budgeted expenditure slide.
So one thing we've really looked at is what is the balance of our budget for salaries versus other expenses that are operational. And we right now are right at the sweet spot of 80-20. So 80% salary and 20% operations.
Any questions about this slide? Okay. Putting it all together, this gives you the full picture of the slides we previously showed you, so you can kind of see where our revenues and our expenditures are falling and where we're hitting as a surplus or a deficit. And we are trying to make sure we build a healthy budget that puts us in a position to be grow our fund balance as we need to, but still meet the needs of our students by staffing appropriately.
So the slide, when you see the general fund summary and it says $767,000, that's about 1.6% of our budget. Okay.
So for our general fund, with the draft numbers that we're presenting to you tonight, this is how we are projecting our ending fund balance for the coming year. At the end of the 25-26 year. And then here we are moving through the rest of our 5 funds again. Student body, debt service. Looks a little more interesting, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Capital projects, we are still developing this. We didn't feel that it was in a form to bring to this body tonight. We intend to budget for the full amount so that we wouldn't need to come for a budget extension. We won't spend it all, obviously, in the first year. And our transportation vehicle fund.
So if we can go back to the general fund.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to go over a few things with you around this outcome. Of course, still in draft form. We're anticipating coming out of this year with the $2.2 million in fund balance, okay? And if at the end of 26, we come out of the year with the $767,000, that gives us an estimated ending fund balance of $2.9 million. What's important is that we look at how we take the 2.9 million and meet the goals of fund balance delivery. And one thing that we need to remember is we're looking at a 4 to 6% band, and we've heard already from the bond managers that 7 to 7.5% is where they would like us. I actually asked the team, and I just want to thank the team. They have been hustling to put this together so that you could see a draft of what things really could be. And I just sincerely appreciate it, everybody. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. It's a lot of work. And this is a draft, so they'll do it again and again. But one thing I want you to see is that this target ending fund balance at 5.5%, which is not even maxing out the target that we have been discussing, leaves us with 297,000. If we took that target ending fund balance to 6% instead, we would end up with $54,619 unassigned. Okay. So it's going to be critically important that we really think about whether or not we want to continue a climb that is relatively conservative toward getting our fund balance to the degree of health, or if we want to make a decision, for instance, that this year we would like to push the goal to 6%, is now the time. We need to make those decisions, and we're constantly talking about that and looking at what it means for staffing, what it means for operational costs. That's one thing we don't talk about as much. We have many operational needs going on, and just because we have a bond, separate pot of money. We have things happening in buildings that were never planned to access bond money. So I just wanted to go over that carefully with you so you know the decisions that are before us. But I will say this, everyone, it is better news that we have this decision to make than we were looking at 3 weeks ago. Okay, the revenue adjustments we've been able to make put us in a better position.
I don't think there really were any more slides left.
I'll say, I know that there's been some, because I think at one point, there was one of the drafts that came up, there was, it also had our expenses closer to like I think the 50 million mark. So there's definitely been some, I would say, some belt tightening there, right?
We've definitely been working at reductions, and I just want to say our organization always has, challenges from that. We're having to have people who are working with less. We have people who have positions in schools that we might not be replacing next year. It hasn't been easy. So I'm glad that you've seen that effort has been made, but we're trying to make it in ways that we feel we have reasonable solutions so that the children and our staff are still having supports and are getting what they need.
Can you remind me again what capacity means?
Sure. So, just as Steve was speaking earlier, there is a threshold of expenditure that you have budget approval to do. And capacity allows you to spend up to 1.5 million more if you were to need to had the revenue to offset it. And we do capacity on the revenue side too, so that if we got some type of grant or we had a donor, someone's great aunt say, I'm going to give you $500,000, we've got room to accept it and spend it. Okay. Anything to add to that? So where we see this going is that we will be moving into the cumulative migration that we've been talking about for so long. And so we'll be putting touches on these budget figures, and this will be migrated into cumulative. We will have a 10-day period starting June 25th where we won't have access to make any changes to it. When we come out the other side, then we can make any modifications. We still can be running reports during this time to be looking at things and making any decisions we need to. But we're at that closing spot now where we have another 5 days and then we need to be closing this down. Anything to add?
Nothing to add. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thanks for the hard work on this. The team, the whole team, appreciate it. All right. That's going to bring us to the superintendent report.
I will keep it brief. We certainly had some wonderful celebration last week. We had the grad walk. We had graduations of both OPA and Sequim High School, and we had moving on ceremonies for second graders and fifth graders. We also had assembly for the eighth graders who are moving up to the high school. And then we had a final day where we all went out and waved goodbye to all the passing buses on the last day of school. So I would say, all in all, you were at many of those celebrations and they were all unique and had their own flavor, but very special. So I really would like to commend the leadership teams at each of the schools who put these events together. It takes a team and a village at every school to do it. And I was really impressed with the planning and the execution and the family engagement of it. Very, very well done. Okay, related to the bond, we certainly had a bond sale that occurred, and we were very pleased with the outcome of the bond sale. We did meet our targets, and just by a hair, and I mean a hair, we did exceed the target that we had hoped for. But what that tells us for future bond sales is that if we continue to work at this fund balance, I think that the confidence in our district's finances and ability to pay will be increasingly strong. And the comments we've received thus far and the way the orders came in for our bonds tells me that we will be a viable investment for folks to make. So I hope we keep it up, and it's good news. Okay. The Bond Oversight Committee met, as did the Design Advisory Committee, for the final meetings of the year. We'll convene again in August and early September. Those groups are very active, interested, motivated. In our last Design Advisory Committee group, I felt like we started to sketch ideas and really see visuals of what could be, and it's quite exciting. Great. There they are. Okay, OSPI had a statewide Zoom and gave updates, and these are all the updates in that Zoom. So I won't read all these notes to you, but just to let you know, there are some funding issues that are going on. We do know that federal program cuts are going to happen, some of which will not occur until 26, 27. So we're going to continue with our method of just budgeting for the revenue, being conservative, having our antenna up though, because anything could happen. And I think we're going to be well prepared, especially if our fund balance can handle and weather any type of storm like that. There will be the delays, short pay for apportionment, but we know we will get that back, and we are receiving the one-time payment of about $125,000, so that will help. And our cash flow graph looks good, so we know we can weather that once again. Very glad about that. I would say that there are some legislative and legal updates that we will pay attention to in our policy committee, so know that we're doing it. And there's going to be a school funding reform task force. And I know that President Pickens has had experience with this in the past, and we're going to circle back around to that. One thing we did hear from Superintendent Reichdahl is the interest in the state to look at what size districts are viable and really consider different models of how districts could be structured in the state. And of course, that's all related to trying to be efficient and finding cost savings, but also being wise and making sure we're not just paying attention to that, not thinking about local implications. So I'm hopeful that that will be well done and we'll have involvement in it. That's the important part. And OSPI has let us know they're having some new performance snapshot tools that will be out online so people can look at district performance differently than just the typical report card. So we will anticipate that, and I'll be sharing it when it's out there for us to look at. We do have draft board workshop topics, and I just want to share them with you out loud. And if you hear something that resonates with you, great. We plan to have it on the agenda. If you don't hear something that you wish we were talking about, please be in touch with Tracy or me so we can be sure it's represented. So we're going to talk about communication and best practices with OPMA, board meeting structure review. How's it going? The way that we run meetings, what could we be doing differently? Board self-assessments will be in, and we'll be debriefing on those. Discipline, policy, and culture. We know that's a very important topic and of interest to our whole organization. Board of a distinction application opens, and would like us to look at that and see what we could be doing and working toward. WASDA presentation review. We're going to talk about some headlines that are just in the news and things we need to be attentive to, draft cell phone decisions. And our survey has not been out yet for a number of reasons. We've been working on some other things, but we will be launching that. So it's going to be well developed. I just had a meeting last week. And then we'll talk about legislative advocacy as well. So any ideas are welcome. AI is also on the list, and I just had a meeting today about AI and possibilities for a fledgling district and how to move forward. So pretty exciting. That's all I have.
And just to clarify, because I think when you mentioned cell phone, you said draft, you said use the word decision. Draft, I think draft is no decisions at the workshop, obviously, but you say we're just going to be talking about those
Yes,
decisions?
there is no decision. We need to look at the draft survey results and talk about that if we have them back by that time, which we may not. And we need to talk about what ideas we have going forward to solicit discussion, making sure we're having that in the format you'd like to do that.
Good.
Yep. Thank you for correcting that.
No, just I just want to be clear.
Yeah, no decisions.
No decisions made. Anybody have anything on that?
I will pass this around. Shiso, Japan, sister city. They did have a representative who came to talk with the city of Sequim. This was a gift that was given to us just as a token of their appreciation and their anticipation of visiting in October, not with students, but with delegation. So we will be involved in that. And if it works out, we'll certainly be welcoming them to our school.
All right, I think that's gonna bring us to our board business, right? And the first is 10.01 approval of 24-25 continuous school improvement plans. Do you want to introduce that or?
So throughout the year, our schools address their continuous school improvement plans called CSIPS, and you have been having board study sessions to hear about progress on these. We do need to adopt the CSIPS and have board approval each year. And so next year, we will approve them after they are presented at the first workshop. This year, we let them present it first, and then we just didn't get back to approving them. So here we are.
Okay. And so I would entertain a motion.
That we approve the 2024-2025 continuous school improvement plans.
All second.
All right, discussion. All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next, 10.02. Did you want to introduce this as well?
Sure. So as Director Sanos discussed with you at his prior presentation, and I have sent background information to you regarding CISA and past guidelines, we are interested in moving forward for board approval so that we can utilize these standards as foundational to the future decisions we make and approaches we take around school safety and security, and also be noting these standards when we have any type of safety policy as a supporting document.
I move that we approve the CISA K-12 school security guide, school security assessment tool, and the path safety and security guidelines.
And I second.
Okay, discussion? Right. All in favor? Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Unanimously. Dr. Jeffries had to step away, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's online.
Oh, he is online now. Okay. Did we want to record his votes on these two? I didn't hear him. Okay. All right.
Have the resolution.
Director
Oh.
Jeffries, I just want to see, are you able to hear us? Approval of the,
There he is.
approve, I can hear you. I didn't
All right.
microphone, I did not have microphone access. I do now.
thank you. Director Jeffries, we did an approval on 10.01, which was approval on the CSIP, and 10.02 approval on the plans. Just didn't want to, we wanted to record you as an affirmative vote for both. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
All right, thank you very much. Next, we're on 10.03, which is the approval of the resolution to accept the cross laminated timber buildings that are located at Gray Wolf Elementary. This is a resolution. Did you want to say anything on this? Or?
The resolution reflects that the CLT buildings were built in 2017, and Assistant Superintendent Husband is very familiar with that. However, at the end of that building cycle, the board did not seem to accept the building, and that is required in order for us to move forward with a grant for building conditions assessment, grant funds of $28,000 approximately. So we need to close this loop so that we can move forward with accepting our grant money.
Okay. So I would appreciate a motion.
So I move that we approve the resolution regarding acceptance of the cross laminated timber building at Gray Wolf Elementary School.
I'll second.
Did we pull it up on screen? Just yeah, okay. Just want to make sure. Any discussion on this? No? Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Jeffries votes aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Jeffries. All right, motion passes unanimously. That's approved. And so with that, I believe that concludes our board business. And
Can I have a question about the schedule?
yes,
So these August. Is this for next? I'm just looking at the upcoming board meeting.
that's last.
Oh, got it. Okay, got it. So this is not up previous.
But we do have a meeting on Wednesday, right? And then we have a board workshop on the 23rd and 24th.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Okay. Oh, so this is next Thursday.
Yeah, that was the one we approved that last meeting, right?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. Anything else? Go to the order. All right. With that, will be. No other. We're adjourned, right? Adjourned. Yeah. Right. Just make sure. 7:39. We're adjourned.
Thank you.